As if I don't have enough liabilities, I have just got myself another one. Patiently waiting for delivery. Rex? Beep beep! Ah! So the car is finally here. Mario has just dropped the car off. Thank you so much, Mario.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Mario, what is your company?
It's Trade Cars Dewsbury Limited.
There you go.
Trade Cars Dewsbury Recovery and Transport.
There you go. That's Mario's company. Go check them out. He's taking care of me. Very nice guy. So yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
So this car is a Category S damaged car, or Cat S. A Category S car is a written off car which deemed to have structural damage, which can be put back onto the road providing that I do end up fixing it. For 1,450 compared to how much MX-5 are selling right now, I think I've got myself a good bargain. Although not a lot of people are a big fan of these, it has actually been dubbed the most hated MX-5. The MX-5 NC has been one of the cars that I have wanted to own. I love them. So I am taking YouTube a lot more seriously to hopefully one day it becoming my full-time job. I read a quote somewhere, it stuck with me but I can't remember where. The quote said, if you can spend 7.5 hours a day working for somebody, why can't you spend 7.5 hours a day working for you, investing in yourself? So if you had the chance, why not take that chance, eh? Now there is one particular person who I have been watching on YouTube for a very, very long time. He has inspired me to take that leap. He doesn't even know who I am. He has inspired me to take YouTube more seriously and actually bid on a crash damaged car. And you probably already know who I am gonna say. His name is Matt Armstrong. And now here we are with our own crash damaged vehicle. I'm definitely not as mechanically minded as Matt Armstrong, but I do love learning and I like doing things with cars. So please stick around for this little project of mine. So I actually got this car from Copart and I put a bid on it, and I was thinking that it was going to sell for a lot higher, but I ended up being the only bidder for the car. The car has 67,186,000 miles. It runs and drives perfect. This is a 2010 Mazda MX-5 Mark III or NC with a 1.8 litre engine and a soft top convertible. I did want the 2 litre and a hard top, but there wasn't any near me and the delivery would have just cost too much. So as I've mentioned, this is a Category S car with a front end damage. I don't know the full extent of the damage. I guess we'll find out when we take the bumper off. The driver's side and the passenger side airbags have also blown as expected of a front end damage, so we are gonna need to replace that. The passenger airbag has also blown through the windscreen. So there you go, a little lovely crack. We do love a bit of crack. The car did come with 2 keys, but there is no V5, but I'll take the 2 keys any day. I looked around and I think you can just apply for a V5. We'll have a little snoop of what is in the dashboard. It is pretty mucky in here. Let's see what we got here. Oh, little light bulb. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Dead Demons. Motor Cinema. Just a charger and some other shit in here as well. Some more light bulb stuff. What's that? Right, don't know what this is. I think that's some more car parts. All the other stuff. Oh, we got free tools. Lovely. Both of the seat belts, the passenger and the driver's side, are also locked. This one's in a resting position, so I guess when they crashed they didn't have a passenger. But the worrying thing is the driver's side seat belt was also in the resting position. So does that tell us that the driver was not wearing a seat belt when they crashed? Or I guess somebody could have bumped into the car when it was parked. Who knows, we will never know. I did have to cut the seat belt because I couldn't move the seat forward. As you probably already know, we are not gifted on the height side. So yeah, I had to cut the seat belt to obviously move the seat forward. We've also got a bit of DIYing going on here. So this has literally just been screwed. Bruh. Screwed, boy. So these cars, I've heard, are very prone to rusting. So we are gonna have a look at the boot, and I'm hoping there isn't a lot of rusting. Got the old plate holder. I don't think it's that bad. You can see that they have actually painted to probably stop all the rusting. And I've just taken the carpet off because it was a little bit moist and I didn't want it to obviously cause more rusting. The convertible roof is in a pretty good condition, I would say, apart from there's a cigarette burn on this side. But all in all, it's in a pretty good condition. I haven't actually put this down because I don't know how to, but we'll have a go. That was actually easier than I thought, and it actually looks so nice without the top. Now, how the hell do we put the roof back up? So now the last thing is trying to get this car to start. I know this car runs and drives because it said on the advert. I didn't bid for a non-runner. I bidded on a car that runs and drives. I wanted a challenge, but I didn't want any of that level 10 Mark Armstrong challenge. I wanted something easier to start with, something that I could work on definitely. Have seen this car run and drive because the delivery driver dropped this off, he drove it, handed the car over to me with the engine running. Funny little story, I guess, is as I was about to drive the car in, I still could not get it started again. So it was literally on the front drive for ages, and the people walking past were just looking at it. There's tapes on the number plate, there's 2 flat tires, and there's airbags blown, and it was just attracting a lot of attention. We have had to tug the car in using the Hyundai, and Mabel had to drive this, and she's never done that before, so she was a little bit scared. So we are gonna try and jump the car, and hopefully we can get it started today. This is what happens if I try and start the car. Nothing. So yeah, we'll try and jump it. Black on black, or is it red and then black?
Bruh. If you're struggling to find the battery on your bit, consult it and it won't come loose.
Positive side, black lead to the negative side. Try and move this to maybe here. Hopefully that's a better earth compared to that one over there, so hopefully that works now. Yes, come on! We have got life, ladies and gents. We have got life. Come on! She sounds absolutely beautiful. I mean, the accelerator is a bit sticky, but we'll make do with that. So this is going to be the first time me driving the MX-5, and hopefully we don't stall it this time. Oh my god, that is absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that she is running. I'm just gonna keep her running for, I'd say, a couple of minutes just to charge the battery up. So here it is, my crash damaged MX-5, and here is its current state. Now what? So about 2 weeks ago, I received delivery of my crash damaged Mazda MX-5 from Copart. Several things needed dealing with, like the 2 rear flat tyres, blown airbags, passenger and the driver's side, locked out seatbelts, and we haven't even looked into the front end damage. So today the fun begins. I still don't know what I'm doing, but the fun begins, I guess. I started dealing with the 2 flat tyres first, as I didn't want to cause further damage. The previous tyres looked old and worn, and it also was not inflated. So I decided to just get 2 new part 1 tyres for now, as we may be changing the wheels later. The part 1 tyres cost me £90 for both, and that is our first spend. Pretty straightforward fix, but definitely was not part of the plan. To keep track of our spending, I have devised this highly sophisticated tracker. This is a road, obviously. And here is me in my MX-5. Oh, shoot. And the road is going to be our tracker. Every time we spend on a car part, I'll be putting a little box on our spend tracker. Any item below £50 is gonna get the yellow box, the thin yellow box. Anything above £50 but less than £100 will be this orange box, but anything above £100 it will get this red box. We'll start with the cost of the MX-5, which is £1,450, and I've set myself a little budget of £1,500 to fix the car up. Basically sort out anything that is wrong with the car, get the car running, drivable and on the public roads. So our first spend, which are the rear tyres, there we go, and that gets an orange box right here. That then gives us a current total of £90. Before we do anything else, let's just give her a little bit of a wash, because she is looking very, very dirty. Take a lot of the stuff out that are inside, all of the trash, just to put our mind a little bit at ease. I started by clearing all of the rubbish that was in the car because there was a lot. I also got rid of the very old seat cover. We then followed that by giving the interior a vacuum to get rid of all the dirt on the carpets, on the seats and on the center console. I then gave the very dirty center console a bit of a clean using a detailing brush and a wipe with a wet cloth. As you can see on my towel, it is very disgusting. I don't even know why I'm cleaning this. This is gonna go anyway. Bruh. She is looking so much better already, and that isn't even the full clean, and that's made a massive difference. Anyway, let's go and move on the outside. We then lathered the car with the New Look detailing snow foam to soften up the surface dirt, followed by a rinse to remove the loose dirt. I made sure to rinse behind the wheel arch as well, as it had a lot of mud buildup. I then made a quick mix of the New Look detailing shampoo for the contact wash. When contact washing, I always use the 2-bucket method, and I usually start at the top half of the car, then at the bottom half. I just wanted to take this time to thank New Look Detailing, by the way. They were kind enough to send a few of their goodies for free, so thank you so much, New Look Detailing. I appreciate that very much. So if you guys are ever in need of a detailing product, go check out New Look Detailing. They have a lot of stuff available on their site. So yeah, go have a look at them, check them out, and thank you. So my MX-5 has been categorized as a category S by Copart, so there must have been a damage to the structure for them to call it so. To see how bad the damage is, we are gonna have to remove the front bumper. So now both of the wheels have been removed and the car raised. It should make the removal of the bumper a lot easier. To remove the bumper, there are two 10mm bolts that we need to unscrew at the front first. They are located just under the crash bar. There are then a bolt and two nuts that we'll need to remove on both sides of the bumper. This is located behind the wheel arch, which is held by several plastic clips. I used a plastic trim remover to pry them off. I found it easier by removing more plastic clips than needed, so I can easily pull the wheel arch back. There are then 8 bolts underneath the bumper, which connects to the under tray. And lastly, there are 8 10mm bolts at the top of the bumper, and then we should be able to pull the bumper forward. But just before I pull the bumper all the way out, I just had to unclip and disconnect the 2 wires connected on both sides of the bumper. It has started to rain, so I'm just hiding in the shed right now while the rain starts to calm down. But yeah, the bumper is off. So this is why the car was a category S. This is the front crash bar. As we can see here very clearly, this bit of the crash bar has crumpled, but luckily further down where the crash can is, it hasn't actually damaged any of that, thankfully, just the crash bar, so we can just get that replaced. There is some damage on the under tray, so there's a piece that's gone missing here, and that's got a big crack, and a lot of the bolt holes have sort of opened up as well, but that's not a big problem, thankfully. So the bumper then, the front grille is absolutely smashed up. The good thing about this is a lot of the original clips from the bumper are still intact, even though the grille has been destroyed. So that's a good thing, we can just buy a new grille to replace that. Several of the clips have been snapped off. It seems that there's history of that snapping off because that has been plastic welded, and that is also sort of the same on this side. There's sort of history of plastic welding, but we can easily sort that out as well. We'll just re-plastic weld that, no problem. Apart from the damage on the crash bar, I can't see anything that is major. If the damage had gotten to the crash can, this build would have been a lot more difficult, but luckily the damage, it seems, is only on the crash bar, so that's not too bad. We can easily just buy a new crash bar and get that replaced. We're just gonna order a few parts like the under tray, the front grille. All the little damages on the bumper as well seems fixable, I think. Plastic weld or filler the cracks and damages on the bumper, then we should be good on the front end, hopefully. But for now, we'll just go and take this crash bar off. To gain access to the crash bar bolts, the headlight needs to be removed first. The headlight is held by 4 10mm bolts and a plastic clip at the top. You will then need to unclip 3 connecting wires on the headlight before you can fully take it out. And here's me giving a thumbs up because this was an absolute pain to remove. So that has now then given us clear access to the 4 bolts that holds the crash bar. There's one there, and then there's another one down there somewhere. Removing the crash bar was very straightforward. There were just 4 bolts on each side that we needed to remove. I did have to ask Mabel to hold it whilst I undo the last bolt. So the front crash bar is finally off. That wasn't so bad at all, was it? The driver's side crushed. It has done its job, I guess. It's its purpose. It's meant to collapse or crumble in front end crashes. Now I don't know what to do with it. So while we have the crash bar off, I'm just gonna give the contact areas a bit of a clean and then paint it up with a Hammermite anti-rust paint, just for a future sort of protection, prevents it from further rusting, I'd say. Before painting, I gave the rusted areas a clean with this wire brush drill attachment and a wire brush that looks like my toothbrush. Once I was happy that most of the flaky rust are gone, I then masked out the surrounding areas and then pretty much just started painting. I sprayed the area with 3 coats and then left it to dry. That is looking so much better. I mean, we've got a bit of a border here and also here as well, but no one's going to see them anyway. It's just for future protection so it doesn't rust up again. The next thing on the agenda then is the under tray is a bit smashed, so we are going to need to replace that. So we're just going to take this one off right now. Just time lapse. To remove the under tray, there are 2 10mm bolts at the back and 2 plastic clips that you'll need to pry out. There are also 2 bolts on each side of the under tray, and once those are off, the under tray should just come loose. Whee! Out with the old, in with the new. Well, semi-new anyway. At least this has a complete bolt holes, no cracks. So I got this new under tray, new used under tray for 40 quid from eBay. I actually went and picked this up today from a guy called Trev. He had 3 Mazda MX-5 NCs in great condition as well, and he was also a very nice guy. So thank you, Trev, for these under trays. So let's go and slap this on the car. So that is our fresh new under tray. Just give it a bit of a wipe to clean it up. But yeah, that is our new under tray on the car. The next thing we need to do then is replace the crash sensor at the front, because it's been in a front end crash and it's activated all of the airbags. We then need to replace that sensor. I'm not quite sure how the mechanism works, but all I know is we do need to change it for a new one because it's been in a crash. And to get to that, it's literally just behind this air intake here, or air inlet pipe, and that comes off with just 2 10mm screws. Here is what I believe is the crash sensor. There's a little 10mm bolt there, so we'll get that removed. Bit of a spider. It's a spider. So we need to replace this sensor. Again, 10mm bolt. So here are our box of goodies. These are a bunch of sensors that I purchased from the same guy actually that I purchased the under tray. I ended up buying the full set. I actually got this full set of crash sensors, the front and the 2 sides, plus the airbag ECU modules for £18. That took absolutely ages. So that is the old one. Make sure I put it away so I don't end up using it again. And this is our new one. Make sure I put it the right way around. It goes in this way, like so. From here, I pretty much did everything on reverse. I just gave the area a bit of a clean before I bolted on the new crash sensor. I also gave the metal cover a bit of a clean as well, and then the air inlet pipe goes back on. This is our new crash bar. I mean, new, used, kind of used, well yeah, used part, as with every part that we've been putting on the MX-5. It will be used, nothing's going to be brand new for now anyway. So I got this crash bar in a pretty rusty condition, I would say. I gave it a bit of a clean and then painted it with the black hammerite. I put about 3 coats on it just to stop it from rusting anymore. But yeah, it looks pretty nice, don't you think? I got this crash bar from eBay again for $29.99. Let's go grab Mabel and then let's put the new crash bar on. Before we put the new crash bar on, we had to put this plastic trim first. This is held by a couple of plastic clips and then the new crash bar can be bolted. The good thing about rebuilding the MX-5 is that there is a lot of parts available and for affordable price as well. There is also a lot of information available online, so for someone like me who doesn't know very much about rebuilding cars, these were highly invaluable. It's so nice finally being able to see the front end sort of coming along. I have no signs of broken bits. For a non-mechanic, I've got no experience doing all this. It feels so good. It is such a great sense of achievement. And yeah, it feels really good being able to see the front end coming along. We still have a lot to do, and we still have to sort out the front bumper, still have to sort out the insides. We've got the airbag, then we've got the locked seat belts to sort out as well. But yeah, at least we're doing it bit by bit and we're sort of getting there. So as you can see, the car has been absolutely mangled. Passenger airbag blown through the windscreen, the driver airbag blown. It's only been weeks since I've received delivery of my crashed MX-5 and we have done a lot already. This was a little project of mine and I wanted to take on a challenge and also introduce something a little different to the channel. You probably already know by now I am not a mechanic. A lot of the things that I do are self-taught and a lot of looking in YouTube. I took a big risk on this Category S MX-5 from Copart, and even though it was a run and drive, I still didn't know how bad the damage was. That until I took the bumper off, and luckily that risk paid off because the damage was only contained on the crash bar. I definitely was not wasting any time as we still have a lot to do. This is the bit which I am definitely dreading, but at the same time I am excited to take on the challenge. This is definitely an unknown territory to me, but just before we deal with the interior, let's go and deal with the front bumper first. From afar, the bumper doesn't look like it is badly damaged, but upon further inspection, upon further scrutiny, the bumper is It seems that the bumper had sustained some damage from the accident, but there are also what looks like some old wounds. There are cracks on this bumper that looks like it has been hot stapled. There's one fine little example right there. There are also some signs of hot stapling on this trim, and the same on this trim as well. As you can see, there's a little hot staple hanging off it, and same again on this side. Again, these are what looks like old cracks, because these does not look fresh to me. Well, this probably looks fresh, but this one is definitely not fresh. So we are going to be fixing a lot of the damages today, hopefully with the help of our American friends. So these are an American product from JB Weld in America. We've got the American flag there. And this is one of their products, which is a plastic weld or plastic weld putty, which you can pretty much make into any shape you want, and it will solidify into a hard plastic sort of thing. And this is a plastic bonder, a very strong plastic bonder, which we will be using to fix the cracks. I started by removing what was left of the front grille. It was held by a couple of clips which I just pried using a trim tool.
Boss ass bitch.
I then removed the headlight surround trim. These were held by a couple of rivets that I just drilled out to remove, and a couple of plastic clips that I dremeled.
Boss ass bitch. Boss bitch.
Headlight trims are now removed, one there and another one there. Now we can see clearly the damage on the bumper, and this is the damage on the other side. So we will probably deal with this first. I did wonder, there's screws on this side and there's also screws on here with a broken plastic. I'm not quite sure what went on here. If you know what is on there, please let me know in the comments below.
Boss ass bitch.
To fix the damages on the bumper, I decided to combine two methods. That's to ensure it is properly fixed. I put the plastic bonder in between the cracks and then I fixed it into place using a plastic welder. And then I added some more plastic bonder on top. I'm not quite sure if this is the proper way to do this, but I thought this would work. Doesn't that look so much better already? So this bit was completely off and it actually feels so much sturdier now, like it was never there. I did this bit as well. Plastic bonder this bit because this was split. This, now the headlight because that was cracked. This because that was also cracked. Put a new piece on there and plastic welded this. And plastic welded this as well. So we have done quite a bit already. I also plastic welded the headlight surrounds because obviously one of the bits was snapped off. There's also a bit of a crack on here where the rivets go, so that's also been plastic welded and plastic bonder. All we need to do now is obviously remove all the metal bits and sand down the excess plastic bonder and removed all the bits we did. I used a sharp cutter to remove the excess metal from the hot staples. Trust me, there was a lot of them. I then used our trusty Dremel to grind down the rest. The last bit that we need to deal with then is this. I found this part slightly challenging as it seems to have been pushed out from the accident. I decided to use a heat gun to soften the plastic and pretty much mold it into its old shape. That is looking so much better already, a lot flatter. Once that is painted, we shouldn't be able to see any remnants of that at all. I've also just sanded a few stone chips that are on here. I just need smoothing in. Yeah, there was a crack here as well. That's all nice and smooth. A few damages here, but yeah, should be looking good. So I am just going to finish sanding a few of the bits and then the front bumper should be ready for repainting. And now I think it's finally time to deal with the interior. I have been putting this off for a while. There's a lot going on in here which I am not very familiar of. To give me a lot of workspace, I started by removing the seats, but it wasn't long until we came across our first problem.
Bruh.
The driver's side bolts are giving me great difficulty. So I'm going to try the passenger side, see if we are going to get some more luck on that side. Passenger side seat was a lot more cooperative. The 4 bolts came out with no hitches. I just had to unclip a few electrical connections underneath and then I was able to fully pull it out. And because I couldn't remove the driver's side seat, I had to keep going. So I moved on to removing the airbag and the steering wheel. The underside of the steering wheel has 2 rubber hole covers which you just pull off to give you access to the 2 bolts holding the airbag. And once those bolts are removed, voila! The airbag comes off. Again, a few connectors need to be unclipped before you can fully pull it out. This is our airbag situation right now. So I've managed to remove the top clip up here, which sits kind of like that, but I think that's actually melted because it's blown. So I don't know, do I just take it all off? We'll see. I think when the airbag blows up, everything just heats up and melts everything on there. I was thinking we might need to get a new wiring. So there's a burn there, but that's actually protected the wire, so that's not too bad. But I'm thinking we might need to get a new clip because that's melted it, but I don't know if we can get away with it or not. I'm not too sure. The steering wheel can now then be removed using a 21mm socket, but before I took it fully off, I marked the center point with a marker and then gave it a little tug. And now it was time to deal with the dash. And to remove the dash, the center console has to come out. A few covers needed to be popped out to reveal the screws holding the center console. There was 2 at the back and then 1 in the center. I was also color marking the bolts and the bolt holes so I know where it goes back. You'll also see me doing this a little bit later. And again, a few connectors needed to be unclipped before the center console fully comes out. Once the center console is off, the screws holding the knee plate are then revealed so we can remove it, which in turn reveals more screws on each side so we can remove the radio and the center cubby. As before, I was also color marking the screws and the screw holes. I was definitely finding my groove at this stage. The center cubby pulled out first and a few connectors needed to be disconnected. To remove the radio, it has a bolt on the side which is in a very awkward position. I had to use a socket extender to be able to reach this, and once that's off, the radio should just pull out with a few connectors to disconnect. Once the radio is off, a few more screws are then again revealed to be able to remove the dash trim. There was also a hidden screw that can only be accessed from underneath where the glove box is, and then I just used a trim tool to pry off the clips. And once the dash trim is off, you already know what I'm going to say. It reveals more screws. So we have pretty much almost removed everything on the dash, but I have a slight problem. So my problem is I don't really want to take the whole dash off because there's nothing wrong with it, and I think it's just going to cause more problem. If we can get away with just changing the top half of the dash, that would be absolutely perfect. I don't really want to take the whole thing off because that's going to be a big job. So this is what I mean. This is just the top half. I feel like we can probably take that off, hopefully. Thinking that I could just remove the top half of the dash, I started to remove the screws that were visible to me, and in search of more screws I had to remove the steering column cover, and then I also removed the instrument cluster. I then decided to also remove the passenger airbag to see if there was any more screws holding it from underneath. That was held by 2 screws and 2 bolts, which helped loosen the dash. The top half of the dash would now feel loose, but there were certain areas that would still feel fixed. I was getting really frustrated at this point. I was running out of options and I could not figure out where and how to get to the screws. At this point I'm thinking accept defeat and that we will need to take the whole of the dash off. I really struggled taking that top dash off. I didn't think that we were going to be able to take just the top half off and we would have had to take the whole thing off. But guys, we have had a breakthrough. So this is our breakthrough. So I actually bought a whole new dash replacement, and it seems that on the side there's some screws I think that we just need to take off, and also the same on the other side as well. I think those screws live somewhere here. So to access the screws on the side, it seems that we need to take the A-pillar covers off and also the sun visor, which kind of works because this sun visor has snapped and we can just, I guess, replace that at the same time. To remove the A-pillars, the 2 roof latches needs to be removed. That is held by 2 Torx screws each, and the sun visor is held by a Torx screw, 1 on each side. And there is the screw that we need to remove. Once the Torx screws are removed, the sun visor just unclips and the light connector needs to be disconnected. We got a little bit sidetracked there. So this is the old sun visor or headliner sun visor, and I wanted to change it because the sun visor on here, oh there you go, it's come off, and the mirror is broken as well. Once the screws behind the A-pillars was removed, the top dash was almost removable. Keyword, almost. So it seems that on the back end of the dash where the air duct is, there is a screw from behind that you can only access by removing the whole thing. I don't really want to do that, so I had a look. It seems that you can just cut that screws in because it's got a clip next to it as well. That screw holder doesn't really matter as such. So that's what I've just done just now, and I'm gonna do the one in the middle and one on the left hand side as well. Oh my god, that is finally off. Thank god for that. Here is what we've just sewn off, and it comes with a clip which is there, so we can just unscrew that and transfer on our new one, and then we should be able to put everything back. That is the top dashboard finally off. This is actually a new one. If you are new to the channel, this is our spend tracker. So the bit in the middle says what item we have bought and how much, and the little boxes indicates how many items we have bought and sort of the price as well. The little yellow box indicates that the item is less than £50, and the orange sort of medium-sized box indicates that the item that we have bought is between £50 to £100, and the big red box indicates that the item is over £100. So for the dash, I spent £120, and that gets a big red box right here, which brings our current total to £297.99. All I have to do now is put the new dash in, and we are now finally on the home stretch. Theoretically, everything should just go back in reverse order. The new passenger airbag can now also go in. Passenger airbag done. So now we're gonna put our new sun visor on. So it is now just a case of putting everything back. The new sun visor goes on, followed by the A-pillar covers and the roof latches, the right hand side and the left hand side. The instrument cluster can now also go back in, and the dash trims can now also be put back into place. And then I moved on into putting the center cubby back, followed by the radio, ensuring all of the electrical connectors are connected properly. Having every screws and screw holes color coded really made my life so much easier. Before we actually get into installing these, I have actually purchased a replacement. I didn't even know these were called gaiters. These are looking very run down. So I got these from eBay in a suede Alcantara finish. Replacing these gaiters was very straightforward. Everything was just held by a couple of screws and clips. I also gave the center console a bit of a clean just before I put the new ones on. And that's it. It's looking so much better. I'm probably going to repaint this ring here into a gloss black, but other than that, for now, that is looking so much better. So yeah, let's go and put that on the car. So the steering wheel comes with this clock spring. It allows the steering wheel to obviously spin it 360 while still being connected to the electricals. Because this has blown, the connector to the airbag is melted, and also the wiring has melted as well. So I have actually bought a new one here. I got this clock ring from eBay for $24.99. The clock ring was only secured by 3 screws and a connector at the back, and then the new one can now go in. I also put the steering column cover back on, and then the steering wheel finally can now also go back after I gave it a bit of a clean. It is now time to put our new airbag. I got this new airbag from eBay as per usual for 28 quid. The brand new airbag can now also go in, and the driver's side is now looking complete. And for the final piece, the middle console with the new gaiters can now also be put back. This is the last trim that I am about to put on. We have actually done it. It is honestly so nice seeing the car's dash fully back, no blown airbags. It is just crazy. That was kind of the biggest hurdle that I thought the car was going to give us, and I think we have just gone over that hurdle, and it still seems so surreal to me, us doing all of this. Like, I'm actually taking the car apart, and literally within a couple of weeks ago I would not even have attempted or dreamt of doing all of this. But yeah, it's just, I'm just mind blown really. Yeah, we still have a lot to do, but hopefully on the interior we should be on the home run now. But yeah, it is, I just can't even describe the feeling being able to do all of this. Although all of this looks so stressful, I am actually enjoying the whole process. I think we are going to end the video there. I hope you have enjoyed watching part 3. Thank you so much for watching. And please, if you haven't already subscribed, please click that subscribe button, drop a like and drop a comment. It would mean a lot for the channel, and I appreciate you guys from getting this far. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Also, by the way, that was where I put all the screws, and we have no loose screws. Everything, all the screw has been put back in the car. That's for the seats, that's the seat bolts. But yeah, look at that. Got a little stool here. So yeah, I've just connected up the battery and everything's working fine. All of the speedometers are working fine. The horn's working fine. The radio's working fine. All the lights are working fine. Come closer. And all of the heater are working fine as well. So that's perfect. Let's go. And today we have a couple more bits to do. So when you get into an accident, these things lock. Due to sudden deceleration, the seat belts will lock out. So what these are meant to do is, as you get into an accident, these will lock out to prevent you from smashing your face in the steering wheel. And here are my 2 new seatbelt assembly, which I got from eBay for, I can't remember. Whoa, let me just distract you there for a second. So if you are new to the channel, this is our spend tracker. On the top right hand side we have the initial cost of the MX-5, and on the other side we have our budget, and in the middle is the last item we have spent. This is how many items we have spent, and this is our current total right now, which is £420 and 46 pence. So for the seat belts then, the pair cost me £79 and 90 pence. That then gets an orange box, and that will now bring our current total to £500 and 36 pence. Now back to the other mark. So to remove the old seatbelt then, we have this bolt here which is pretty obvious, and then the rest of the assembly is behind this plastic trim. To get to the seatbelt assembly, a couple of plastic clips needed to be removed first, then most of the trims will just pop out with a gentle tug. The seatbelt top cover comes off first, followed by the stepping plate and then the side trim. Then did the same on the other side, and then I also started unclipping the hoop cover and the wind deflector so I can remove the big plastic trim. So I thought, I'm not going to give myself more work. We can kind of access the seat belt here, so I think we should just be able to change it from here. To remove the seatbelt assembly, I started with the most visible bolt, followed by the top guide located near the shoulder of the seat. A little vertical guide will also need to be removed, followed by the last 3 bolts holding the full assembly, and an electrical connection will also need to be disconnected, and then the whole thing should just come out. To put the new one on, everything just has to be done in reverse. Seatbelt assembly in first, 3 bolts holding it, followed by the vertical guide and then the top guide. Reconnect the electrical connection and then the last bolt on the side. We finally have a fully functioning seatbelt. I am pretty happy with that. That was a nice and easy one. And while we are here, I just wanted to let you guys know, by the way, that we have finally got the V5 for the MX-5. That means we are going to be one step closer to putting this car back on the road, because now we can tax the car, we can insure the car. We are one step closer to getting her back on the road. One of the roll bar hoop covers have gone MIA, this one have gone missing. I thought we might as well get ourselves a new set. I'm not a big fan of the chrome, so I got myself a new hoop cover. Here are our new hoop covers. I prefer it not chrome, I prefer it in black. I got these new hoop covers from eBay for £27.49. To take the hoop covers off, the front cover unclips first, and then the back cover is held by 2 screws, which in my case was not there. Once the screws are off, the plastic trims should just slide out. And I thought while I had the plastic trims off, I'd give everything a bit of a wipe as well. The new one should just go in reverse order. The back cover slides in first, followed by the 2 screws, and then the front cover clips on. Hoop covers now all done, nice and easy. So now that the seat belts are on and the new hoop covers are on, the next on the agenda then is this. So the boot is rusting quite a lot, so I want to stop that from happening any further. It looks like they have painted it, but it's now starting to rust again. So we are just gonna take everything off, give everything a bit of a clean, and then we will give it a few layers of Hammerite anti-rust paint. I started by removing a couple of plastic trims just to give me a bit more space and to see if there were any other areas affected by rust. I then used a drill with a wire brush attachment to get rid of the flaky rust, then vacuumed it all off. This bit of the boot will not get seen. Nobody's gonna see this because there is a carpet that goes on top of this, but my mind's not gonna be at ease knowing that there's loads of rust underneath there. I then gave everything a wipe with a wet cloth to get rid of the dust, left it to dry, and then it was ready for painting. The paint I am using is Hammerite Direct to Rust Silver Paint. No priming is required, it pretty much does what it says on the tin. So the first coat has now nicely dried up and it's looking so much better. It feels so much better, but we're just gonna hit it with a second coat. But first, let's just mask up the edges and then we'll lay our second coat down. I decided to mask the edges up because I didn't like how the edges looked. I wanted it to look somewhat professionally done. And then it was time to lay the second and the last coat on. Once the paint was all dried, I pretty much just put everything back. I did change some of the plastic clips as they were getting a little old. I also spray painted one of the plastic trims as it was looking a bit weathered and faded. I gave the carpet a good clean before putting it back, and that is the rear boot done. Next on the agenda then are these headlights. They're looking a bit old and worn out, so we'll just give it a bit of a clean and then hit it with a headlight restorer. So the headlight restorer that we are going to be using is this headlight lens restorer by Turtle Wax. To make my life a little easier, I decided to put the headlights back on the car before I started applying the headlight restorer. I then put a couple of drops of the headlight cleaner on a cloth but moved on to using a dual action polisher just to speed it up a little. That is actually insane how much that's improved already. So the yellowing has gone, but it still looks a little bit dull. So I think we're gonna move on to the next stage, which is the sanding it. The headlight restorer kit comes with a fine sanding pad with two sides labeled 1 and 2. I wet sanded the headlight for about 30 seconds with side 1, which I think is 800 grit, and then side 2, which I think is 1200 grit. And then I just buffed it with a wax. I did put this clear acrylic wipe that came with a kit, but I ended up sanding it back down because I didn't like the way it dried. The headlights have come out so nice. It is 100% better, no doubt about it. That's another job done as well. Just look at the state of this. That has been screwed here, as you can see. And it's also got a screw on this end as well. To remove the wing mirrors, the door card needs to be removed so that we can unclip the electrical connection. The door card is held by 3 screws, one behind the door latch, one in the cup holder, and another behind the door handle. Once the screws are removed, and then pry the door card using trim tools, and then the door card should just pull out. I loosened a couple of screws holding the speaker so that I can feed the wire out. Then we can move into removing the wing mirrors. The wing mirrors was held by 2 Torx screws, and I then did the same on the driver's side. There was no problem with the driver's side, but I decided to take them both off so that I could paint them in black. I then sanded the wing mirrors, followed by a layer of prime. I have just realised that the passenger side door mirror that I bought is from a pre-facelift, which is more of a rounded shaped, which is completely different to the current one that I have now, which is the facelift, and that's got more of a sharp edge to it. And I've been trying to look for a wing mirror online, and there is nothing available for the facelift model. I don't know, I was literally just about to prime both of them. I'm not too sure what to do anymore. So here is the new replacement wing mirrors. I have managed to get hold of the new facelift wing mirrors. I had to buy them as a pair, unfortunately, so I had to get the 2 wing mirrors in red. All we got to do is sort of dismantle everything, mask everything up, and then sand it down and paint. I got this facelift wing mirrors from Facebook, actually, from a guy called Aaron, and I picked these up from Manchester today. And here is our brand spanking new, newly painted wing mirror. I'm just gonna take all of these bits off and then reassemble it. It looks pretty good, it came out alright. I then got everything reassembled so we can put it back on the car. The plastic trim goes in first, followed by reconnecting the mirror heater connections, and then I just had to give the mirror a gentle push for it to click in place. The difficult thing about this is when I put the wing mirror through, I have to feed the wire in here, and then it comes out at the other end, which is behind the speaker, and that is how much gap I have to try and grab it. To go around this problem, I attached a twine at the end of the wire so that I can just pull this on the other side to expose the connector. I did have to use this stick to guide the twine where I can see it, and then the rest is history. I just had to put the speaker screws back, the door card, and then the 3 screws holding it, and its covers. Both of the wing mirrors are finally on, and I am quite happy that I went with black, to be honest, because they look so nice and they just make the car look a little bit more sporty. I did mess up a little bit, so the driver's side I just finished lacquering this morning. I'd left it to dry for about 4 to 5 hours now, but it seems it didn't dry enough. I had sort of damaged it a little bit right there, but that shouldn't be too bad. We can always just repaint that. What do you think of the black wing mirrors? I think they look alright. Let me know in the comments below. Should I have gone the same paint, or do you like it in black? now it's finally time to put the seats back on. Let's go. As you can probably work out by now, I am a little bit OCD. I had to give the carpets and the seat a bit of a clean first before putting it back in the car. And then it was now time. Putting the seat back in is the last step to completing the interior. The interior was certainly one of my biggest challenge, and to be at this stage is certainly beyond belief. It just goes to show how things become possible if you put your mind to it. We still have a couple more bits to do, but she'll soon be back on the road, and I cannot wait to finally get to drive this car. The seats are finally all back in again. Gosh, the interior is looking so different from what it was. The last time we took the seats off, there were still the blown airbags, and now it is finally a complete interior. I'm just so happy right now. I've been out here the whole day just working on the car, and now we are honestly so close to finishing this car. So I think that is gonna make for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed this part. If you have been following the build, thank you very much for the support. Thank you for watching. If you have gotten this far, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like and drop a comment. I would very much appreciate any of your support. It would mean a lot for the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video. On my previous videos, we've already managed to sort out a lot of the things that needed doing. I've replaced the damaged crash bar, which I believe is the reason why the car was categorized as having structural damage. I've also got rid of the blown airbags. This was definitely the most challenging part so far, especially the passenger side. I've also swapped out the locked seat belts, both the driver's side and the passenger side, and many other things as well. You are just gonna have to watch the previous videos. This car has truly taught me a lot. Most of the things that I have done here are pretty much self-taught and a lot of research. As you guys probably already know by now, I am not a mechanic. Most of the experiences I've done with cars are on my own. And we are so close to getting this car back on the road, but we have a problem. Bruh. For some reason, the passenger side windows now does not want to go down. The driver's side still works, but on the passenger side, nothing at all. I can see red lights, so I know there's power on here. So I feel like the problem is somewhere around there, because we have recently just taken it off on the previous video, so we're gonna need to investigate. I have seen on Matt Armstrong's Porsche rebuild to make sure that the wing mirror's wire does not block the glass. That may well be the case. We do, however, have a bigger issue. On the previous video, we repainted all of the wing mirrors, and for some reason, the paint is just not drying at all. So this is its current situation. I don't know if you can tell the scratches there. I can literally just run my finger on it. It's not fully drying. I've got the feeling it's because I didn't sand the previous paint all the way down, so I feel like that is the problem. So anyway, we're gonna have to take these off anyway to investigate why the window isn't going down. It's a little bit of a setback, it's a bit of a pain, but we're gonna do what we gotta do. I have just taken everything off. All of the wing mirrors are off. I've checked that the wiring wasn't blocking the glass, and it wasn't, so that wasn't the problem. I did, however, take the center console off again. I removed the electrical connection and then plugged it back in, and it seems to be working. This is the passenger side. I think it must have been just a loose connection. Perfect. Before she can truly be back on the road, she needs to look good. And one of the things that is letting her down are these rims. My rims are looking very worse for wear. It is looking very rusty. As you can see, there's a lot of these. The silver isn't even silvering anymore. It's the same situation here at the back. It's not as bad, but there is a bit of these like bubbling and a lot of these. I am using this full set of wheel repaint that you can buy from eBay. It comes with 3 silver paints, 1 primer and 1 lacquer. I started by giving the wheels a good clean first. I used an iron fallout remover to remove all of the iron deposits that have built up on the wheel. I let that sit for a couple of minutes to do its thing, and then I followed it with a snow foam and a good scrub. The cleaning didn't seem to have done a lot. There is still a lot of iron deposits on it. Instead of wasting my time trying to clean it all, I decided to just move on to sanding all of these down. When sanding, I used a 120 grit paper on the rough areas, followed by a 240 grit paper to smoothen it down. All the remaining areas I used a 400 grit paper and finished it with an 800 grit paper, ready for the next stage, which is priming. So the wheels are finally all masked off. So I masked up a bit at the front and then the same at the back as well. I put a little bit more tape on the tyre wall so that obviously it doesn't get painted. The rest are all here. Same situation. I did end up using another can of primer as I was painting the barrel of the wheels as well. But I found that 1 coat of primer was sufficient, so I left it with that. Our rims are now all primed and they have been drying for, I'd say, a day or two, and it is now time to spray paint it. I started with the intricate edges of the rims first, making sure it was all thoroughly painted, and then I moved on to the flat areas. You'll find me going around the wheel a lot as I found this to be the most effective way in making sure I get all of the areas of the rims painted. I ended up laying 3 coats of the silver paint to achieve a close enough of a perfect look. I left it to dry and then moved on to lacquering. I only ended up putting a layer of lacquer on the rims because 1 can was just not enough for all 4 rims. If I had another can of lacquer, I would have certainly laid a couple more layers on. While we wait for the rims to dry and the car is on the air, I took this opportunity to change the car's brake disc and pads. So that is one of the things that I had been planning to do because it's very rusty and sort of worn. I just wanted the car to have a full sort of new braking system before we take it onto the road. We will bleed the brakes, I'd say, a little bit later. Once the MOT is done and the car's back on the road, we'll do a full servicing. To remove the front caliper, there are 2 bolts that I needed to remove, and then I just used a cable tie to keep it suspended. The brake pads can now also be removed. I then removed the caliper mount, which is also secured by 2 bolts. I also took this opportunity to give all of the brake components a bit of a clean as well, while everything is off. And once the whole assembly is off, it should allow us to remove the brake disc.
Bruh.
Oh dear. And look at this, it has actually snapped.
Bruh.
I'm having no luck with these screws. I even moved into using an impact driver. Just a disclaimer, by the way, do not ever do this, don't use this at all. I thought I would have just loosened it up. I actually ended up going to the shop to buy this manual impact driver because this screw would just not budge. And this worked like an absolute magic. I was able to remove that screw within minutes. We've managed to remove the stubborn bolt without any damage, thankfully. So now the disc is off. Now that the discs are off, I then again made the most of this opportunity and decided to paint the stone guards. I did the same for the rear end as well. First, I got rid of the loose flaky rust, sanded it down to smoothen it, cleaned it, and then painted it with black Hammerite anti-rust paint. So the new brake disc I got from eBay, it came as a set, the fronts, the rears. My mum and dad actually sponsored this little build by purchasing us this brake disc, so thank you mum and dad. So these discs actually came with the centerpiece painted, but I ended up repainting it all again just to make sure that it doesn't rust as quickly. Now it was just a case of putting everything back. I made sure to put a bit of anti-seize on the bolts so that it is easier to remove in the future. I then used this caliper rewind tool so that I can put the caliper over the brake pads. I also put a light layer of anti-seize on the brake pads contact areas to stop the caliper from sticking. That is now all of the disc brakes put on. I didn't end up changing any of the pads because they were fine. I could just use them up, and then obviously when they get worn out, I'll just put the new ones on. It is now finally time to put our newly painted wheels on. The rims are now looking so much better. I mean, there are still a bit of imperfections here and there. I could have sanded it down a little bit better, but I'm not that bothered about it. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, to be honest. One of the things that I wanted to change with MX-5 as well are the bulbs, because it currently uses the common yellow lights. So I thought I'd buy myself some LED white lights, which is also quite convenient because one of the side lights or daytime running lights is actually out. So now would be a good time to change the light bulbs as well, because if we bring that to the MOT test center, that will not pass. Bought these lights from eBay as per usual for about £24. This was a very straightforward change, probably made a lot easier because I had the headlight off of the car. I removed the electrical connectors first, and then the old light bulb literally just pops out. And you're just going to put the new one in reverse order. So that's working fine. However, right hand side is not working. It turned out that I've just put the bulb the wrong way around. Who would have thought? It looked the same to me, so they're both working, so that's some good news at least. Finally, the wing mirrors can now go back in again. I sanded the wing mirrors to bare plastic, primed it, painted it and lacquered. And they have come out much better than the previous. They've dried properly at least. To put these back, the wiring goes in first, then secured it in place with a Torx bolt. I then fished out the wire on the other side and then reconnected the wires. Wing mirror test on the left hand side. That's working fine. Up and down. That's all good. Let's test out the right hand side. That's working fine as well. That's good. Once I was happy that the connections are all fine, I can now then secure the door cards back. Most of it was held by plastic clips, so a couple of slaps snaps it back in place. There was one screw on the door latch, one screw on the door handle, and another on the cup holder. We are so close to finishing this car. It is so surreal. So today we are going to be getting rid of the code on the car. We are getting the flashing airbag error on there. We are going to try and clear that, hopefully. So I bought this OBD reader, yeah, some sort of OBD reader from eBay for about £13, I think. Hopefully this is able to clear the airbag codes on the car. I guess we will see. I mean, that error is a little bit different. We've got to find some sort of a way to fix that, because that is looking really bad. Here it is. I don't know why I'm so happy, but for a 13 quid item, hopefully it worked. Click diagnose. That's diagnosing now. And then let's drop down to erase codes. It actually says the vehicle has no fault codes. I don't know if you can see that. Bruh. I am actually having a slight problem with trying to clear the code. Trying to do everything right. But it just does not seem to be clearing it. The airbag flashing is still there. If I scan the error codes, it says that there are no errors on there, so I'm not too sure. The OBD reader knows the car's VIN number, but I can't seem to erase the codes. I'm not too sure. Maybe the reader isn't compatible. I'm also thinking whether I put everything back correctly. I'm not too sure, to be honest, or whether I needed to change the airbag ECU. I'm not sure. As far as I'm aware, you can just clear the code using an OBD reader, but other than that, I'm kind of stuck really. So we're just gonna have to move on and do other things instead. We are here today in Alloy Wizard in Brig, not to collect some alloys, but I actually ended up dropping my front bumper here for these guys to sort out. I was going to rattle can the front bumper, but I thought I wanted it to have a little bit more of a professional finish because it is going to be exposed. Everybody's going to see the front bumper. Here it is, and it is looking so nice. From what I've left them with, oh my gosh, they've done so well with this. So I don't know if you can remember, there was some damages here at the front. There's a line. That's all been sorted out now. You can't even see that anymore. And yeah, it's just looking so nice. I then reassembled the front bumper. I started with the fog lights. I actually resprayed these a while back as I didn't like the bare plastic look. These just clips back and with one screw that holds it in place. The headlight surrounds then goes on. It had a couple of guide pins, so it wasn't that difficult putting it back. These are held by a couple of rivets, and at the bottom, where it used to be plastic welded, I just used a silicone adhesive to keep it in place. The top metal brackets then goes on. It has 3 pieces, and similarly these are held by a couple of rivets. This is where the bolts go when it is on the car. The last bit that needs to go on the front bumper is the grille. I am super excited for this. The stock grille for the MX-5 are like slats, but I've decided to go for an aftermarket one. Hopefully this fits. I've never actually tried it on. Here it is. Yes sir, look at that. That is so much better. I got this grille from IL Motorsports in Germany for I can't remember. The grille installation was pretty straightforward. It was just a matter of lining it up and pushing it until it clips in. But we did come across more problems. I have just been looking around on the internet, so it seems that you have to buy the tow hook cover, the whatever these covers are, and then there's also a frame that surrounds all of this. That's why it looks a bit gappy. That would explain it, to be honest. So yeah, let's just do a quick purchase. Bruh. Now it was finally time to put the bumper back on. It was such a beautiful moment seeing the bumper back on the car since it has been off of it for so long. There was a couple of bolts at the top, a couple of bolts on the side near the wheel arch, 2 bolts at the front and several screws on the under tray, and the bumper is finally secured on. That car is looking so nice, I am not gonna lie. It feels so good to be here at this point with the car. We are so close to getting it done.
Tell me you love me.
I think we are gonna end the video there. I really hope you have been enjoying the content. If you have been sticking around for the rebuild, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. However, if you are new here, I only have one favor to ask from you. Please click that subscribe button, drop a like and drop a comment. I guess 3 favors. The autoglass guy is on the way. He's about, I'd say, 20 minutes away to change the windshield on the MX-5. So yeah, he is on the way. I received the call this morning. We are just gonna remove all the little trims like the wiper and some plastic trims around the windshield, so that all he needs to do when he gets in here is change the windshield, just to make his life a little bit easier. I started by removing the wipers first, which was only held by a bolt each. I then moved on to removing the plastic trims. 2 screws situated on the opposite side of the car needs to be removed first, and then the trims just unclips. I then also gave the area a bit of a clean. So Autoglass is finally here. We have got a very nice guy, Michael, with us today, who is going to be dealing with the windshield. So this is our new windshield. She is finally done. Oh my god, it is honestly so surreal seeing the car with a not smashed windscreen. I don't know why it's making me so happy, but yeah, it is making me so happy. But yes, the new windscreen is finally on. It was then time to have another crack at clearing the airbag error on the dash. I actually ended up purchasing a diagnostic tool that can look into airbag errors. This set me back £130. We have 3 fault codes present. The first one is the battery voltage is low. The second one is the ECU module is defective. The third one is that the airbag passenger lamp circuit is faulty. This supersedes my mechanical knowledge. I'm really running out of options with the errors on the car. So the 2 things that I'm worried about is the ECU malfunction and the airbag lamp issue. I think it is the airbag ECU that needs changing. We do have a spare. I did buy a spare with all the sensors, but I didn't end up changing the ECU that was already on the car because I thought it was fine. Because the error would not clear, I decided to take everything apart, swap out the ECU that I had, and cross my fingers that this was going to solve it. Now that I have put the new airbag ECU on, we are coming up with completely different errors to what we had. So that solves the issue of the ECU malfunction, passenger airbag lamp issue. So I think these errors that are coming up are due to because the part number isn't completely matching. It could be that, so I think all we need to do now is just find an airbag ECU that is fully functioning with the same or exact part number. There's not really much I can do now. I think we're just gonna order a new part and we'll see if that works. So today is MOT day and I am feeling a little bit of pressure because we still have a couple of things to do with the car, like sorting out the front number plate and the rear number plate. But before we can go into sorting out the number plates, there's other things that we need to worry about first. So the first things first is the wheel arch. 1, 2, 3 wheel arches. So they're all from the same year, which is the pre-facelift, which is obviously not my car. Hopefully the correct one is on the way, but it's not gonna make today. So I'm gonna have to try in some sort of way put the wrong wheel arch on, and hopefully the MOT people don't notice. Apart from having to reschedule the MOT 3 times, there is also one very good reason as to why I am having to get the MOT rushed today. But you will have to stick around at the end of the video to find out why. For now, we better get on with it because we do not have a lot of time. So that is the temporary wheel arch on. I put some temporary sort of plastic clips on there, but as you can see, that is not lining up. And underneath, these 2 screws aren't quite lining up. So currently I've got the center console removed. We have the new part for that, and I'm just hoping that this part will work. Hopefully all the errors will get cleared. If that part doesn't work, then we're kind of stuck. We can't have the motor today. The car can't be back on the road. Here she is, brand spanking new, and that is the same number as our old crashed one, N123S, N123S. Everything rests on this new airbag ECU. If this does not resolve the issue, the MOT centers will not test the car. We didn't even need to clear any errors at all. The airbag error is gone. It's definitely not there. It is gone, guys. There is definitely no errors there. Oh my days, that is so amazing. We literally just replaced the airbag module and that was it. All of the issues cleared. We can finally take her for its MOT. We can't celebrate too early because this is only half of the battle. She will still need to pass the MOT first before we can fully relax. But yeah, my god, at least that is out of the way. I am a Michanich. Talking about on cue, the wheel arch from Rebuild, Revive and Drive just arrived. Hopefully this is the right wheel arch this time. So you know what, we're at it anyway. I might as well put the proper wheel arch on. And it is the correct part number. Here it is, the new wheel arch. Lines up perfectly, lines up to all the holes. And underneath looks good as well. Here are our replacement plates, by the way, from UMR Plates. So if you are in need of a new number plate, they will do anything you want. Glitters, show plates, 3D, 4D gel plates, anything. If you head to their site and use the code MAM15 to get a discount off your next purchase. So I went with a 3D gel, all legal of course. I didn't want something too out there, just something low-key but looks nice at the same time. But yeah, UMR Plates, thank you so much for sending these out. Because we now have an aftermarket front grille, I had to use the show plate holders to hold the front registration plate. I then used a 3M double-sided tape to hold the front and the rear plates. We are finally ready for the MOT. I gave the car a little bit of a scrub, just cleaned the roof, cleaned a bit of the interior and all the sills so it looks good. I have cleaned the engine bay as well. Pretty much everything inside and outside is clean enough so it doesn't put off the MOT tester. But yeah, to get to this point of the build where the car is running ready for MOT is a win-win for me. Even if it doesn't pass the MOT right away, just to get to this stage where we can drive the car, no more airbags blown, all of the seat belts are fixed, it's I think, well, for me it is such a massive achievement. Getting to this stage, man, it's honestly, I have learned so much. We have come a long way. I bought this car to introduce something new to the channel, but I got way more than that. I fell in love with the process and the satisfaction of just seeing that old thing come back to its old glory, I guess, and it being back on the road. I am absolutely knackered doing this around my full-time job. It takes a lot out of you, but seeing this car like this right now, it makes me feel so much better. It's like you forget all of the hardship, you forget all of the hours and hours just sitting there. How I got to this point with no mechanical experience at all is insane. Yeah, the last hurdle now is to try and get it to pass the MOT, and hopefully it does with flying colours, hopefully. I am expecting a couple of advisories because the car is almost a couple of years old, 13 years old almost. There's a couple of rust going on in there, but hopefully she passes, so we shall see. Go. First drive of the MX-5. Make sure we don't die. So I've been driving the car for a couple of minutes now. I'm hearing a lot of rattling at the back. I don't know if the suspensions are knackered, but I'm hearing a lot of rattling at the rear end. I don't know if you can hear it, especially when I go over a hump. It rattles quite a lot. I feel like I'm so close to the steering wheel. If the airbag blows up, my face is going to be absolutely smashed. But yeah, this car's actually pretty nimble. It's quite quick, I've noticed. It's so nimble, I love it. I love this car. This is the first time the car has been back on the road since the crash, and it is honestly so nice, and what an absolute pleasure it is. I smell burning. I'm seeing a lot of smoke on the left hand side of the car. I don't know whether the brake is something wrong with the brakes or something. That is smoking quite a lot.
One eternity later.
MOT has passed, come on! They did say there's a couple of advisories, but I will talk to you when we get home. Jeez, as if crazy. I am so happy that the car has passed. It was so tense sitting there waiting. There were several advisories. However, the first one is that the near side or the passenger side front brake was binding. I realized that when I was driving, as I got to the MOT center, the left hand side was smoking. I'm seeing a lot of smoke. It was confirmed by the MOT because they put that as an advisory, but not excessive. And the other advisories are the rear suspensions, the left and the right is on its way out. I realized that as well because as I was driving, I felt like the back was just too stiff. I don't know if the suspensions are knackered. I'm hearing a lot of rattling at the rear end. Yeah, so nothing major. Now that the car is on the road and running, I am just gonna enjoy how the car drives as stop, and then we can get into modifying the car. I have a lot of things planned for this car. The reason why I had to get the MOT done today and get the car road tax is because a producer of a show called Bangs and Cash dropped me a message on Instagram. She wanted to feature me into the show. I think they are currently doing up an MX-5 and they wanted somebody to fill. So tomorrow morning we are going to be out and about filming with the MX-5. So to end the video then, I hope you have enjoyed this build. Please stick around, this is not the end of it. We've still got a lot of things to do, but if you have gotten this far, thank you very much for sticking around. And for everybody that has been involved with the MX-5, you know who you guys are. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for watching. For the past couple of months, I have been very busy rebuilding this crashed MX-5. This car has really challenged me on so many levels. I have learned a lot and done so many things I have never done before. I have changed the airbags, the dash, the locked out seatbelts, reassembled the front bumper, and those are only to say a few. She is now back on the roads and I think it is time for some improvements. Before we do any of that, let's just make sure the car is all serviced. Because I bought the car from Copart, I don't actually know when the last servicing was done. And it didn't come with any servicing books or log books, so play it on the safe side. Let's go and get the car serviced. So we'll start with the easiest, which is changing the wipers. These are pretty standard wiper blades. To remove them, you need to pull the wiper forwards, squeeze the wiper blade clip and then slide down. Put your new ones on, push it up until you hear a click. Pretty straightforward. You should then do the same for the other side. Well, almost. And next, the air filter. Air filter, air filter. I'm only joking. Air filter is here, right here. On the MX-5, the airbox is kept closed by these two C-clips, which you just pull back to release. Wiggle the old air filter out, check it out for a few minutes, and then wiggle the new one in. Next up are the spark plugs. The coil pack needs to be removed first, which in the MX-5 is held by a bolt. Remove the coil pack from its electrical connectors and then put aside. The spark plug can now then be loosened using a socket. And then I just used an old rubber coil pack to pull the spark plug out. So this is our old spark plug and this is our new one. Much better. The new ones can now go in and then tighten to spec, which is about 10 to 14 Newton meters for the MX-5. If it looks like I know what I'm doing, then I must be hiding it well, as I have never actually changed a spark plug before. So if I can do it, I'm sure you definitely can, so don't be afraid of having a go at it yourself. Now it's time for the oil change. I've done oil changes a couple of times now, but never on the MX-5, though the principles are exactly the same. you first have to drain the old oil. I usually remove the oil filter next, as more of the old oil usually drains out. The old oil filter did put up a fight, but I eventually got it out. There she is, burn of my life. The old oil filter. Took absolutely hours to remove. That is our old oil out. The new oil filter is in and the sun plug is back in as well, so we should now be able to put our new oil in. Make sure you also use a new sun plug washer as well, by the way. I then dropped the car and now we can top up the engine with new oil. The MX-5 uses about 4.3 litres of oil. Not bad. On my previous video, the front passenger side caliper was actually seasoned. I thought after a couple of miles driving, the seasoning would stop. I have actually taken it off, greased everything, and it is still seasoned. So I ended up getting a new caliper. Here is our new front caliper. Let's get this fitted as well. So this should be spinning freely, but it's not. I've recently found out that this is a common fault for the MX-5s. The caliper is held by two bolts, one at the top and one at the bottom. I also had to remove the brake line. I used a locking plier on the line to stop brake fluid from draining, and a banjo bolt just needs removing. So that is our old caliper, which is leaking brake fluid everywhere, and that is our new caliper. I've also purchased new banjo bolts and washer for the new caliper. A banjo bolt is a hollow bolt with holes that secure the brake line and also allows brake fluid to flow through to the caliper. Then it was just a matter of reassembling everything back together, and as preventative I made sure the back of the brake pads are greased, the slider pins and the bolts are also greased. That is now our new caliper in. Look how sexy that is. We're just gonna go and bleed the brakes now because I don't want to die. To bleed the brake system, I started by topping up the brake reservoir first, as you don't want this getting emptied and letting air in the master cylinder. Bleeding in car context means we are letting all of the air out of the system. So to bleed the system then, because I'm by myself, I bought this one-man bleeding kit. I think it's got a one-way valve at the end, and then you attach this to the bleeding nipple and then you just press on the brake. So yeah, this is quite handy and not very expensive as well. So here is our bleeding nipple, and that just goes in there. And the other end goes into something to catch the brake fluid, in my case a water bottle. And then all you have to do is press the brake until you can't see any more bubbles in the line.
Bruh.
Because the tube kept coming off, I had to cable tie it to the bleeding nipple and use a string to keep the bottle up. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think there's no air bubbles in the system, but yeah, pretty good little kit. Then it was just a matter of cleaning up the brake fluid residues, as it is highly corrosive, tightening the bleeder bolt and then putting everything back. What else is there left to do other than to test it out? So I've just put some blocks of wood here, just in case the car doesn't stop. So hopefully those blocks of wood will stop the car from going any further. Hopefully we should be fine. Not that I don't trust it at all, but yeah, we should be fine. Great success! And finally, it is now time for some modifications. So I thought the first thing that we need to deal with are these wheel gaps. I mean, I've got small hands, but that's too much. Yeah. So I went and got myself some lowering springs from good old eBay. Look how nice these are. I mean, these are just some cheap ones. I think the company is called Low Sport Suspensions. These were about £110, not too bad. Coilovers would have been absolutely preferred, but the budget does not cover coilovers, unfortunately. These springs should lower the car by 35mm, enough to hopefully store the wide wheel arch gaps. To remove the front suspension, as far as I'm aware, all we need to do is remove the link arm so that we can angle this whole thing to allow us to take the suspension out. I began by loosening the lower suspension bolt, well, tried to. As expected, with the 2010 MX-5, which probably never had the suspension changed, all the bolts are seized up. I've been in for about 30 minutes just trying to fight with the bolts and nothing is coming loose. I'm gonna be here the whole afternoon. So I called the help of the magic liquid, that is the WD-40 and the Ugga gun, and that seemed to have done the trick. Yee! Made progress! I left that bolt loose for now and then moved on to removing the drop links. Well, tried to. We're not making any progress. I thought I was able to loosen the bottom drop link bolt, but it's just spinning in place. It's not even loosening at all. I'll show you. That's one of the drop link bolts. If I put that in, it is spinning, it's loosening. Well, that's what I thought. But what it's doing is just spinning in place like so. It's not even loosening at all. So I think I'm gonna have to cut it off. That is the drop link off. We'll worry about that later. I'm just going to take the bolt that holds this then, and then we should be good to go. Next to be removed are the 3 bolts at the top mounts. These didn't put up much of a fight as they weren't very rusty. That has definitely loosened it, but I am struggling to remove the suspension. It's like it's coming off, but I think I might need to remove the upper wishbone. And remove we did. The most difficult aspect of doing something you've never done before is doing something you've never done before. But the greatest reward is that you are learning as you go. Woo! One suspension out. Oh my god. That only took a couple of hours. I then did the same on the other side, and now having known what to do, I made quick work of it. I removed the lower suspension bolt, cut the drop link, removed the upper wishbone bolts, removed the 3 upper mount bolts, quick wiggle, and then front right hand side removed. Jeez. The next day I got onto grinding out the drop links. This was a work on itself, I tell ya. Not like I've been here for hours. Look at the state of this. I think this has defeated me. At last, we can now move on to changing the springs. This should be an interesting one because I have never actually removed a spring off a suspension before, and we are using a tool which I have never used before as well. That is a spring compressor, which you can compress using a ratchet. I attached a spring compressor on each side of the spring and then slowly tightened to compress it. Using a spring compressor removes the built-up tension so we can remove the upper spring plate. If we didn't do this, the plate would shoot out and can potentially be very dangerous. This looks and feels so sketchy. Whoa, that was a bit scary. So here are our 2 front springs, which is definitely a lot smaller than the stock springs, and it looks good in red as well, racing red. Everything just needs to be done in reverse order when putting the new springs back. I also bought a new rubber boot as the old one had seen better days. Now the best part, which is putting everything back. We got ourselves a new drop links as well. I suppose we couldn't really reuse the old one, can we? Once all was loosely bolted back on, I shoved the jack underneath the joint to put a load on the suspension before I tightened everything. That is because if you tighten them at full drop, when you let it down, the bushings will have a constant twisting force applied and can wear it out fast. And we do it all over again, this time at the rear end. To access the upper strut bolts, we needed to remove the boot plastic trims and a metal panel protecting the fuel line. I am literally so dumb. I just found out to remove these drop link bolts, you're supposed to use these open wrench and then use an Allen key to stop it from spinning. The reason why that keeps spinning is because it is a ball joint. If you don't put this Allen key on here, it'll just keep spinning and spinning. Here I am the whole time thinking it's lost its thread, and I have been cutting them off. Oh my god. That's it. drop link off. Look at that. On top of removing the drop link, I had to remove the lateral arms off as well, to allow me room to wiggle out the suspension. A bolt then needs to be removed at the bottom of the strut, 2 at the top and 1 directly underneath. I also bought 2 new rear shock absorbers as well, as these needed changing as found on the MOT. In a way, we are hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Spring replacement on the rear is pretty similar to the front, so that didn't take me too long. The only difficult bit when I was putting everything back was trying to insert the strut mount back into the knuckle, but using a jack helped me out a lot. As before, I put a load on the suspensions again before I tightened everything. Just look at how nice this car sits now. That massive wheel arch is now gone, but more importantly, the satisfaction in being able to say I did this all myself is unmatched. As they say, the beauty lies not only in the destination, but in the journey itself. I think that's all the time that we have for now. The car does look so much better now. It doesn't look as floaty as it was. I do think it needs a 10 to 15 millimeter spacers just to bring the wheel out a little bit and fill the wheel arch gap a little bit more. On the next video, the MX-5 is going to go through some more transformation, so keep an eye out for that one. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment. It would help the channel out a lot, and I shall see you on the next one.